From this day on, Zhou Hao is the one and only son of the Zhou family. That was the declaration that shattered my world at the dinner table. The man I'd called dad for 25 years jabbed his chopsticks at my nose, his eyes dripping with a disgust so pure it felt like acid. And beside him, the newly discovered blood son, Zhou Hao, stared at me as if I were a piece of garbage, a smug, triumphant sneer twisting his face into something ugly. I said nothing. I just let my gaze sweep across the table. Over the 7 sisters who had once showered me with love like I was the sun in their universe. They sat there in a collective, suffocating silence. One picked at her nails, another stared blankly into her bowl of rice. And none of them, not a single one, lifted their eyes to meet mine or spoke a single word in my defense. That was the moment my heart froze solid, like a slab of meat yanked straight from the deepest freezer. 25 years of family bonds, a lifetime of devotion, and they priced it at exactly 200,000 yuan. I picked up the bank card, let a cold smile touch my lips, and said, "Fine." I turned and walked away without a backward glance. But they all forgot one crucial thing: this family could lose anyone and still stand, but lose me, and it would crumble to dust. "Get out, you bastard who stole another man's life." A greasy chicken leg smacked square into my face. Scalding juices dripping down my forehead and leaving sticky trails on my skin. I didn't flinch. The one who threw it was Zhou Hao, the prodigal son who had shown up 3 days ago with a paternity test in his hand, revealing himself as the Zhou family's long-lost biological child. And me? Shen Nua? I went from being the family's most treasured son to a surplus burden in the blink of an eye. "Zhou Hao, watch how you talk to your brother." My father, Zhou Zhengwu, scolded him, but his voice was weak, utterly devoid of any real authority. Then he turned to me, and the thin veneer of guilt on his face was quickly replaced by impatience. "Shen Nua, really now? How just got back? Can't you, as his older brother, cut him some slack? He's suffered for over 20 years out there, and you? You've enjoyed 25 years of comfort in the Zhou family." A bitter taste flooded my mouth. Comfort? How did the Zhou family go from a roadside stall to Zhou's kitchen, a chain with over a dozen branches across the city? It was because of me. From the age of 15, I lived in the back kitchen, burning the midnight oil to perfect a signature sauce that no one else could replicate. It was me who showed up at the market at 4 in the morning every single day to handpick the freshest ingredients. It was me who drank until my stomach bled just to secure prime mall locations for our stores. My sisters, the eldest, a renowned lawyer, the second, a university professor, the third, a chief physician, they were all brilliant, dazzling women, the pride of the city. But their tuition fees, their designer handbags, the gas for their luxury cars, every single cent was earned by me, dime by dime, through the grease and smoke of that kitchen. They never mentioned it. My parents chose to forget. Now, in their eyes, I was just a thief who had stolen their real son's fortune. "Dad, don't blame Big Brother. I understand why he's upset," Zhou Hao said with fake sincerity, his mouth stretching ear to ear. "After all, I'm the one with Zhou blood in my veins. He's not. Spend too long in a golden nest, and when you're suddenly forced to move out, who wouldn't feel bitter, right, Big Brother?" He deliberately emphasized the words Big Brother, dripping with provocation. I lifted my eyes and stared at him coldly. He looked just like Zhou Zhengwu, same single eyelids, same bulbous nose, but there was something else in his eyes, a slick, calculating cunning born from the streets. "What are you looking at? Did I say something wrong?" Zhou Hao grew unsettled under my gaze and, in a fit of irritation, shoved his bowl aside. "Who made this food? It's awful. Shen Nua, aren't you supposed to be our family's head chef? This is your best? You should pack your bags and leave, too." My mother, Zhang Lan, quickly picked up a piece of my signature dish, braised chicken feet with a secret recipe, and placed it in his bowl. "How, try this. It's Nua's specialty. Your sisters love it." Zhou Hao glanced at it and wrinkled his nose in disgust. "What is this? Doesn't even look appetizing. Mom, don't let him in the kitchen anymore. Just looking at his face makes me lose my appetite." My hand, hidden beneath the table, clenched hard. My nails dug deep into my palm, sending sharp jabs of pain through me. I turned my gaze to the 7 sisters I had loved with every ounce of my being. They sat across from me like a row of exquisitely dressed puppets. The eldest, Zhou Yun, the queen of the legal world, was elegantly dabbing the corner of her mouth with a napkin, as if everything happening before her had nothing to do with her. The second, Zhou Ye, the youngest associate professor at the university, adjusted her gold-rimmed glasses, her eyes fixed on her phone screen as if she were reading some groundbreaking academic paper. The third, Jo-yu, the lead surgeon at the city hospital, furrowed her brows as if studying a complex medical case rather than witnessing a family meltdown. The fourth, Jo Shuang, a food influencer with 10 million followers, was touching up her lipstick with a compact mirror, probably preparing for her next livestream. The fifth, Jo Xian, young but already holding a high-ranking position in a government office, sat upright, her expression radiating bureaucratic authority. The sixth, Jo Cheng, an up-and-coming architect, was sketching something on her phone, completely deaf to Zhou Hao's rants. And the seventh, Jo Shi, the piano prodigy from the conservatory, my beloved little Shi. The one I cherished most. She kept her head buried low, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her shirt. Not one of them stood up. Not one word of defense. 25 years of shared life shattered in an instant by the mere mention of blood. Enough. Zhou Zhengwu finally slammed his hand on the table, his patience gone. Chen Nuo, I'm going to be straight with you. He pulled a bank card from his pocket and slid it across the table toward me. There's 200,000 in here. Consider it compensation from the Zhou family for all these years. We've looked into your biological parents. They live in the countryside and they're not well off. This money should be enough for you to build a new house and find yourself a wife. From today on, you have no connection to the Zhou family whatsoever. Zhou Hao is our only son. 200,000, the price of 25 years of my youth, my sweat, my devotion. I laughed. I laughed until my chest ached. Zhou Hao fanned the flames from the side. Dad, isn't 200,000 too much? He ate and lived off us for free for 25 years. We should be charging him, not paying him. If you ask me, just give him $2,000 for bus fare and send him off. Shut up. Zhou Zhengwu shot him a glare, but there was no real anger in it. He turned back to me, his tone carrying that condescending kindness of a benefactor. Chen Nuo, you need to learn to be grateful. The Zhou family doesn't owe you anything. If anything, you're the one who stole 25 years of Hao's privileged life. I finally spoke, my voice hoarse and cracked. Am I just some freeloader in this house? My gaze swept across every single person in the room. Big sister, that lawsuit you won last year that shook the entire city, the menu for your celebration banquet? I stayed up 3 straight nights designing it for you. Second sister, when you were up for associate professor and had to host the department heads for dinner, that Buddha jumps over the wall they couldn't stop praising? I pulled every connection I had just to source the top-grade ingredients to make it for you. Third sister, you. Enough. Big sister Zhou Yun cut me off coldly, a flicker of unease crossing her face. Chen Nuo, what's the point of bringing all this up now? You're part of this family. Isn't it only natural that you do things for the family? Now you're trotting all this out to claim credit. Don't you think that's just ugly? Ugly? I stared at her refined yet icy face, and suddenly she felt like a complete stranger. I stood up and picked up that bank card. Fine. I'll leave. No shouting match, no begging. The moment they chose to abandon me, my heart had already died. I turned and walked toward the door. Nuo. It was seventh sister, Jo Shi. She'd finally lifted her head, her eyes rimmed red. My footsteps faltered. A faint flicker of hope sparked in my chest. She was the one I'd held in my arms since she was a baby. When she was sick, I carried her on my back through 3 different hospitals. When she started learning piano, I worked multiple jobs just to buy her that first grand piano. She'll speak up for me, right? It's cold outside. Put on another layer before you go. Her voice was small, trembling with tears. And that was it. That tiny flame inside me went out completely. I pulled open the door and walked out without looking back. The cold wind bit into my neck, but I felt no chill at all, because no wind, no matter how bitter, could match the coldness of the hearts in that home behind me. They all thought that getting rid of me just meant losing a cook who was easy on the eyes. They'd soon learn they'd just driven out the pillar of this family. Without me, Joe's house of cuisine was nothing. Zero. I didn't have much. One suitcase held everything, a few changes of clothes, and a thick, worn recipe book. That book was over a decade of my life's work, page after page filled with my notes on refining every dish, plus dozens of signature sauce recipes I created from scratch. Half of Joe's house of cuisine's success was written in those pages. I zipped up the suitcase, ready to leave the room I'd called mine for 25 years. The door suddenly pushed open. It was seventh sister, Zhou Shi. She stood in the doorway clutching a steaming bowl of tang yuan, looking timid and small. Brother, you haven't eaten. Have something before you go. She still called me brother, not Chen Nuo. I looked at her and said nothing. It's your favorite, black sesame tang yuan. I just boiled them for you. She held the bowl out, tears welling in her eyes. Brother, don't blame mom and dad. They had no choice. Zhou Hao is their real son, after all. So, that means I'm the one who should be thrown out? I asked, my voice flat. That's not what I meant. Zhou Shi waved her hands frantically. I just. We can still be friends, can't we? Friends? I let out a laugh. Zhou Shi, that Steinway piano. You had your eye on last month, the one worth 800,000, the 300,000 down payment, I paid it. I told you it was your 20th birthday gift early. Zhou Shi's face went white as a sheet. Your hands get cold when you play piano. So every winter I made sure you had a hand warmer ready, and I'd brew you warming soups. You love strawberries, so I drove across the entire city to every import supermarket, just so you could have fresh strawberries even in the dead of winter. Would a friend do all that? With every word I spoke, her face drained another shade of color. Finally, the bowl slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor with a loud crash. The tang yuan rolled everywhere, plump and white, staring up at me like a row of mocking faces. Brother, I'm sorry. She broke down sobbing. Please, stop. Sorry? I shook my head. You have nothing to be sorry for. You just made your choice when it came down to family versus self-interest. She chose the latter without hesitation, or rather, every single person in the Zhou family had made the same choice. I pulled my suitcase past her. Take care of yourself from now on. Those were the last words I left her with. Downstairs, the living room was empty. Zhou Zhengwu and Zhanlan were probably out somewhere celebrating with their long-lost precious son. Fine by me. It spared us a hollow, hypocritical goodbye. I pulled open the front door. About to step out, when big sister Zhou Yun's voice rang out behind me. Chan Nuo. I turned around. She stood at the bottom of the staircase, looking down at me from above, a perfectly tailored business suit. Hair swept back immaculately, wearing her usual expression of cold, professional superiority. Take this card. She tossed a credit card at my feet. The pin is your birthday. The credit limit on it is enough to keep you afloat for a while. Her tone was like she was tossing scraps to a beggar. I didn't take it. I let the card clatter to the floor with a sharp, clean sound. What? Not enough? Zhou Yun frowned. Chen Nuo, don't be greedy. You're not even a real Zhou. The fact that we're willing to give you this money at all is already more than generous. Big sister, I said, meeting her eyes. That medical malpractice case you were drowning in last year, the witness who provided the key evidence and turned your case around, I spent a full month combing through hundreds of patients to find that person for you. Have you forgotten that? Zhou Yun's face changed in an instant. What are you trying to say? Nothing. I pulled the corner of my mouth into a thin smile. I just wanted to remind you, counselor, people should have a conscience. With that, I stopped looking at her and walked resolutely into the night. Behind me, Zhou Yun's furious voice rang out, Chen Nuo, you stop right there. Do you think we can't survive without you? I didn't stop. Survive or not, you'll find out soon enough. I took a cab to the bank and checked the balance on the card Zhou Zhengwu had given me, 200,000, exactly. Then I transferred every last cent out of that account. As for my biological parents, yes, I was going to see them. But not the way they imagined, not with this 200,000 in hand to build a house and find a wife back in the countryside. I'm going to tell them that their son has come to take them to live a good life. As for the Zhou family, I pulled out my phone and dialed the numbers of several core suppliers for Zhou's signature restaurant. Hey, Boss Lei, it's Chen Nuo. Yeah, I need to tell you something. I've left the Zhou family. From now on, I'm done managing Zhou's business. Whether you keep supplying them or not, that's your call. Brother Wang, from now on, send my orders straight to my new place. I made over a dozen calls, all to connections I'd built with my own two hands over the years. These people sold only the freshest, highest grade ingredients, and they answered to me, Chen Nuo, not to some Zhou's signature restaurant. When I was done, I looked at the WeChat group labeled Zhou Family, and without a moment's hesitation, I hit delete. From this moment on, the Zhou family and I were through. I checked into a small motel and started mapping out my future. Walking away from the Zhou family didn't mean I had nothing. I had my culinary skills, a recipe book filled with exclusive formulas, the network I'd spent years building, and 200,000 in startup capital. I was going to make a comeback bigger and stronger than ever before. I'd show them who the real fortunate one was. The next morning, I took a long-distance bus headed back to the countryside. Following the address Zhou Zhengwu had given me, I found the rundown little courtyard. The gate was half open, so I pushed it aside and stepped in. There, I saw a man with graying hair and a thin frame squatting on the ground splitting firewood. Beside him, an equally aged woman was struggling to wash clothes by hand. When they saw me, they both froze. Who are you looking for?" The man stood up, eyeing me warily. I looked at their faces, weathered by years of hardship, yet I could still trace the faint resemblance to my own. My throat tightened instantly. "Dad, Mom." I dropped to my knees with a thud in front of them. I came back too late. My biological parents, Chen Jianjun and Li Xiuhua, were simple, honest farmers. Back when I was born in that hospital, a mix-up during the chaos swapped me with the Zhou family's child. They searched for a long time, but being poor and without connections, they eventually had to give up. They assumed their child had probably died long ago. The moment they heard me call out Dad and Mom, both old folks were stunned speechless. And then the tears came, wailing and all. The three of us huddled together, sobbing out 25 years of heartache and grievance. After the crying subsided, I helped them inside. The house was tiny, bare as a bone. The only appliance worth anything was probably the 13-inch black and white television. Li Xiuhua clutched my hand, tears streaming without end. "My boy, let Mama look at you. You've gotten thin. Did they treat you badly in that family?" I shook my head and glossed over the Zhou family's affairs with a light touch. I didn't want them to know about all that ugliness, to worry about me. "I'm doing fine. I'm grown now. I can earn money. I'm taking you to the city to enjoy life." "To the city? That must cost so much money." Chen Jianjun's face wrinkled with worry. "We're not going. We're fine right here at home." I knew they were afraid of becoming a burden to me. I pulled out the card with 200,000 on it and set it on the table. "Dad, Mom, there's 200,000 on this card. It's not from the Zhou family. It's what I've saved up myself over the years. First, we'll rent a nice place in the city. Once I get my business off the ground, we'll buy our own big house." 200,000, the old couple was staggered by the number. In their minds, that was an astronomical fortune. I stayed in the countryside with my parents for 3 days. During those 3 days, I did nothing but talk with them and cook for them using the simplest ingredients, a clay stove and an iron wok. I made them one home-cooked meal after another, watching them eat with such contentment. The block of ice that had formed in my heart because of the Zhou family finally began to thaw. This was where my roots were. 3 days later, I brought my parents back to the city where I'd lived for 25 years. I rented a 3-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood. After settling the old folks in, I got to work on my business. I was going to open a restaurant of my own. I didn't choose to go head-to-head with Joe's signature restaurant in the bustling commercial district. Instead, I set my sights on a food street near the university district. The rent was cheap, foot traffic was heavy, and most importantly, the customers here, students, were price-sensitive but extremely picky about flavor. If the food tasted good, business would take care of itself. I found a well-positioned storefront that used to be a Malatang shop. The owner was looking to transfer it due to poor management. I took over the space for 100,000, and the remaining 100,000 went entirely into renovations and equipment. I already had the name picked out, Chen's Kitchen. Simple, direct. During the renovation, I supervised everything personally. The kitchen layout was designed entirely around my most comfortable workflow. I knew this place would be where my dream began. Just as my little shop was coming together at full steam, something happened at the Zhou family's Joe's Signature Restaurant. I caught the news on a food forum, a post titled "Joe's Signature Restaurant Falls from Grace." A century-old brand destroyed in one day had been pushed to the trending list. In the post, a netizen claiming to be a longtime regular of Joe's vented with righteous fury, "I've been eating at Joe's for 10 years. Their signature braised duck used to be absolutely incredible, crispy skin, tender meat, rich sauce, you couldn't get it if you showed up late. Today I went again and ordered it. What the hell did they serve me? The duck was dry and tough. The sauce was saltier than the sea. One bite nearly sent me to the afterlife. And that boneless chicken feet used to melt in your mouth. Now I chewed until my jaw ached, like chewing on rubber bands. The service is garbage, too. I called for someone for ages and nobody came. When I complained to the manager, he had the nerve to look annoyed and said, "Eat it or don't." The comments below exploded like a bomb. Holy crap, I thought I was the only one. I thought my taste buds had changed. I went last week and the food was a million miles from what it used to be. Same here, I ordered Buddha jumps over the wall to take home. My dad took one bite and spat it out, asked if this was dishwater. I heard Joe's changed head chefs and kicked out the old one. What? They kicked Chen Nua out? Are they insane? Chen Nua built half of Joe's reputation with his own hands. That's not even the half of it. I heard the new manager is the boss's biological son, the one they just found a while back. Goes by Zhou Hao. Doesn't know a damn thing, just barks orders left and right. And he's already pissed off every veteran in the kitchen. No wonder. This is going to be a show. I stared at the comments, my face completely blank. This was all exactly what I'd expected. The heart of Joe's restaurant was never that gilded sign hanging over the door. It was me, my one-of-a-kind culinary skill and the recipes in that notebook. Oh, how he thought he could just follow the recipes and get the same flavors. Naive. The heat control on so many dishes, the subtle nuances in seasoning. The way ingredients were handled, none of that was written down in any recipe. That was over a decade of hard-won experience. A clueless outsider who had never even touched a stove thought he could replicate my success. A fool's dream. My phone suddenly rang an unfamiliar number. I picked up. Chen Nua, what the hell did you do to our family sauce? Joe Hao's furious, sputtering roar blasted through the speaker. I held the phone a little farther from my ear and answered with a calm, "Hello? Don't play dumb with me. Did you change the recipe before you left? Why does everything I make following your instructions taste completely wrong?" Oh. I feigned surprise. Is that so? Well, maybe that's a you problem. A me problem? You definitely sabotaged this. Chen Nua, I'm warning you, don't get cocky. Without you, Joe's is still going to run just fine. Is that right? Well, I wish you booming business. I couldn't be bothered to keep listening to his nonsense, so I hung up. Listening to his impotent rage on the other end of the line, I felt nothing, not a ripple of emotion. If anything, I almost wanted to laugh. Without that secret sauce, Joe's restaurant was like a tiger with its fangs pulled, all bark, no bite. Let's see how long they can last. No sooner had I hung up than another call came in. This time, it was fourth sister, Zhou Shuang. Her voice was frantic and furious all at once. Chen Nua, where are you right now? Something wrong? You have the nerve to ask me if something's wrong? Do you have any idea how many followers I've lost because of the family's mess? Zhou Shuang shrieked. I went live today and the entire chat was full of people cursing me out. Saying our family are a bunch of swindlers, saying my food vlogger persona is fake, even my top supporter ran off. Are you happy now? I listened to her self-righteous accusations and found it all utterly ridiculous. Zhou Shuang, first of all, that's your family, not our family. Second, your followers left and your top supporter ran off, what does that have to do with me? You, she sputtered, momentarily speechless. Chen Nua, don't you forget, when you used to stream, I was the one who warmed up the chat and brought in viewers. Now that I'm in trouble, you're just going to abandon me? I helped you because I thought of you as my sister, I said, each word deliberate, but now you're not. Do you believe me if I say I'll leak everything about you online? Let the whole world know you're an ungrateful, backstabbing snake? Suit yourself. I hung up again, then blocked her number. Ungrateful? Who exactly is the ungrateful one here? When you kicked me out, you sure didn't say that. Now that things have gone south, you come running back to me. Too late, my kindness has its limits. On opening day of Chen's Kitchen, there were no firecrackers, no flower baskets, and barely any customers. The food street near the university was fiercely competitive, and my little no-name shop didn't draw a second glance from anyone. My parents were anxious, constantly peeking out the door. Son, maybe we should lower the prices a bit. I smiled and told them not to worry. Dad, Mom, don't rush. Good things don't need to beg for attention. My prices sat at the higher end of the food street, a bowl of signature beef noodles, 38 yuan. A serving of the house special braised pork over rice, 42. Plenty of students walked by, glanced at the prices, shook their heads, and wandered into the 10 yuan Lanzhou noodle shop next door. But I wasn't worried in the slightest because I had absolute confidence in my craft. At noon, when the lunch rush hit, the shop was still quiet. Just one bespectacled young man who hesitated for a long time before stepping inside. "Boss, give me a bowl of beef noodles." He looked a bit shy. "Coming right up." I cooked it myself. Top-grade beef bones simmered for 8 hours into a rich, clear broth that filled the air with a deep, savory aroma. Hand-pulled noodles, springy and smooth, generous. Chunks of beef shank braised in my exclusive secret marinade until impossibly tender and infused with flavor. Finally, a sprinkle of fresh green scallions and cilantro topped with a spoonful of my signature chili oil. A perfect bowl of signature beef noodles done. I set it down in front of the young man. "Take your time, friend." He caught a whiff of that bold, aggressive fragrance and couldn't help but swallow. Carefully, he took a sip of the broth. The next second, his eyes flew wide open. Whoa! He couldn't hold back anymore. He grabbed a big bundle of noodles with his chopsticks and slurped them into his mouth in one go. Savory, fragrant, numbing, spicy, every flavor exploded in his mouth at once, hammering his taste buds. He ate until sweat dripped down his face, finishing every last drop of the soup. "Boss, another bowl." He held up his empty bowl, still craving more. "Coming right up." I smiled, knowing my first step had been a success. That young man turned out to be part of the photography club at the nearby university. After finishing his meal, he patted his full stomach with satisfaction, then raised his phone and snapped several photos of my storefront and that bowl of beef noodles. "Boss, your noodles are incredible. I've never had beef noodles this good in my whole life. I've got to post this on my moments and recommend it to everyone at school." "Thanks, man." That afternoon, students started trickling into my shop. They'd all come because of that young man's social media post. Half skeptical, but without exception, everyone who ate something I made became a walking advertisement. Word spread from one person to 10, from 10 to 100. By the evening rush, my tiny little shop had a line forming outside. "Boss, one braised pork rice, extra meat. I want the beef noodles, spicy." "Oh my god, this braised pork is absolutely incredible, it melts the moment it hits your tongue." The shop was filled with the sound of customers singing their praises, and my parents and I were running around with our feet barely touching the ground, but genuine smiles were plastered across all of our faces. On our very first day of business, we cleared over 5,000 in revenue, but that was only the beginning. Over the next week, Chen's Kitchen became the hottest name in the entire university district. From noon until night, the line stretching out the door never once let up. Plenty of people were willing to wait a full hour, all for a single bite of my signature dishes. Chen's Kitchen became the most talked about topic on the University District Forum. I'm screaming, Chen's is insane. What kind of god-tier chef is the owner? You can close your eyes and order anything, there is not a single bad dish. Their braised pork knuckle rice is the love of my life, the skin is so soft and sticky. The lean meat isn't dry at all, and I can eat 3 bowls of rice just with the sauce. Don't even talk to me, I'm standing in line right now. There are 20 people ahead of me, and I feel like I'm about to starve to death. My business was booming more and more each day, while over on the other side, Joe's restaurant was sinking deeper and deeper into trouble. Negative reviews were piling up online, their revenue was plummeting off a cliff, and several of their branch locations were already operating at a loss. Zhou Zhengwu was frantic with worry, a cluster of painful blisters breaking out on his lips, and Zhou Hao, instead of reflecting on his own mistakes, shoved every ounce of blame onto the kitchen staff, firing one person today, dismissing another tomorrow. Before long, the veteran chefs who had worked under me for years had been chased out almost entirely. All that was left were a bunch of sycophants with no real skill to speak of. With a team like that, how could they possibly turn out good food? The Zhou family was beginning to truly understand what it meant to be utterly helpless without me. That evening, just as I was about to close up shop, a black Mercedes pulled up out front. The door swung open, and a woman in a white dress stepped out. It was third sister, Zhou Yu. She was still as beautiful as ever, but her face looked haggard, with faint dark circles shadowing her eyes. She walked into the shop, looked at me, her gaze tangled with complicated emotions. "Chen Nua, can we talk? There's nothing to talk about between us." I kept wiping down the table, my response cold and flat. "Just a few minutes." Her voice carried a hint of pleading. "Please." I paused, looked at her. "Go ahead, then. Could you come back to the Zhou family?" Zhou Yu bit her lip. The hospital is holding a new round of bidding for their cafeteria contractor next month. We were basically guaranteed to win it before. But now, because our reputation has tanked so badly, the hospital leadership is already raising concerns. If we can't produce dishes that satisfy them, this project is going to slip through our fingers. The city hospital cafeteria that was a prime cut of meat, not just because the profits were fat, but more importantly, it was a golden publicity window. Back in the day, I had poured a tremendous amount of thought and effort into landing that project. Now they were about to lose it. So I looked at her. What does that have to do with me? How can it have nothing to do with you? Chen Nuo, this project means everything to me. Whether I get promoted to chief physician by the end of the year depends entirely on this. You can't be so selfish, only thinking about yourself and not care whether we live or die. I laughed, but it was a bitter, humorless laugh. Selfish? When you threw me out the door like a piece of garbage, why didn't anyone call that selfish? Now that you need me, you come running to guilt-trip me. Zhou Yu, when Zhou Hao pointed his finger in my face and called me a bastard, where were you? When Zhou Zhengwu tried to buy me off with 200,000, where were you? And now, because your precious future is on the line, you suddenly remember I exist. I advanced step by step, and she retreated step by step, her face pale as paper. At the time. She was stumbling over her words, incoherent. At the time, you were thinking, thank God it wasn't me who got swapped, weren't you? I struck the nail directly on the head, shattering her hypocritical mask. Her body swayed as if all the strength had been drained from her. Chen Nuo, she looked at me, and for the first time, genuine fragility flickered in her eyes. I'm begging you. Help me this once, just this once. If you help Joe secure this project, whatever conditions you name, we'll agree to all of them. My condition is that you all stop bothering me. I picked up the rag and went back to wiping the table, not sparing her another glance. Please see yourself out. I'm closing up. Zhou Yu stood there, frozen, for a long time. Finally, she turned and walked out of my little shop, utterly dejected. Watching her lonely retreating figure, I felt no satisfaction in my heart, only a vast, hollow emptiness. How had family come to look like this? Third sister Zhou Yu returned empty-handed, but the Zhou family wasn't about to let things go. 2 days later, second sister Zhou Yu showed up. She was smarter than Zhou Yu. She didn't come in swinging with demands. Instead, she brought gifts, 2 bottles of premium Maodai, the kind you can't just buy off the shelf, and a limited edition set of fine tea. Nuo, I know you love tea, so I had a friend source this especially for you. She set the items down on the table, her smile warm and gentle. I glanced at them and said nothing. This little shop of yours is doing pretty well. She looked around the room, her tone carrying a superiority she couldn't quite hide. But at the end of the day, it's all small-time stuff, nothing that'll ever make the big leagues. With skills as good as yours, being cooped up in a place like this is such a waste of talent. At that moment, my parents happened to walk out of the back kitchen. When they saw Zhou Yu, their faces turned stiff and uncomfortable. I see, second Mississippi. They still couldn't shake the old habit of addressing her that way. That way, uncle, auntie, hello. Zhou Yu nodded politely, but the distance in her demeanor was impossible to mask. She pulled out a chair and sat down across from me. Nuo, let's talk. I know you're still holding on to a grudge, but we're family after all. What hurdle is too high to overcome? We're not family. I cut her off without hesitation. The moment I was thrown out of that house, we stopped being family. The smile on Zhou Yu's face froze for a split second. You're still upset about what happened that day. Nuo, you need to understand Mom and Dad. Xiaohao is their biological son, after all. They owe him something. So it's only natural they'd favor him a little more. So what you're saying is, since I don't share their blood, I deserve to be the one sacrificed? That's not what I mean. Zhou Yu let out a sigh, putting on an air of someone speaking from hard-won wisdom. What I'm trying to tell you is, there's a limit to throwing a tantrum. You've got your own little shop now, and sure, it looks nice from the outside. But how far can it really take you without the Zhou family's platform? Without the connections, you're nothing. She paused, then extended her so-called olive branch. Come back to the Zhou family. If you return, your father promises you this, you'll be the general manager of Zhou's eatery with a 10% dry share. As for Xiaohao, I'll make sure he apologizes to you. What do you say? 10% dry share. It sounded tempting. Even if Zhou's eatery was struggling, its market value was still tens of millions. 10% meant several million. Too bad I didn't want it. No need. I looked at her, my gaze calm. That sinking ship called Zhou's, whoever wants it can have it. As for the general manager position, I have zero interest. Chen Nuo, don't be ungrateful. Zhouya finally tore off her gentle mask, revealing her true impatience. You think you're something now? Let me tell you, a new food plaza is going up near the university district. When that happens, your little hole-in-the-wall shop will be the first to go under. That's my problem. Don't trouble yourself. Zhouya's chest heaved with rage. I didn't come here today just for the Zhou family. I came for myself too. I applied for a national-level research project, and it had already made it to the final review. But because of the recent negative press surrounding the Zhou family, even my advisor called me in for a talk. Chen Nuo, what you've destroyed isn't just the family business, it's the future of every single one of us. Here we go again, the same self-righteous accusations, as if leaving the Zhou family made me guilty of some unforgivable crime. And when you kicked me out back then, did you ever think this day would come? I let out a cold laugh. Back then, you all enjoyed the dividends I brought in, every one of you feeling perfectly entitled. Now that I'm gone and the dividends dried up, you come running to blame me. Since when does the world work that way? Zhouya, you're a university professor. You teach students. So let me ask you a question. As a human being, shouldn't the first thing you have be a conscience? Zhouya was struck speechless, her scholarly face flushing bright red. She grabbed the expensive liquor and tea leaves from the table and stood up awkwardly. Chen Nuo, you'll regret this. She hurled that threat and stormed out. Watching her retreating figure, my mother, Li Xiuhua, walked over with a worried expression. Son, is it really wise to burn bridges with your sisters like this? After all, they're... Mom! I cut her off. They're not my sisters. The moment they chose to stay silent, they stopped being that. I placed my hands on her shoulders and said seriously, you only have one son. Before, I wasn't capable enough and you suffered because of it. From now on, I won't let anyone bully us again. My mother looked at the resolve in my eyes and nodded, though her own eyes reddened. I thought that after being rejected twice in a row, the Zhou family would lay low for a while, but I underestimated just how shameless they could be. A few days later, the person I least expected showed up at my door. It was Zhou Zhengwu and Zhou Hao. They didn't come to my shop, they went straight to the house I was renting. I happened to have the day off, relaxing at home watching TV with my parents. The doorbell rang, and my mother went to answer it. Seeing who was outside, she jumped in surprise. You, why are you here? Zhou Zhengwu squeezed out a smile that looked worse than crying. In-laws, we came to see Chen Nuo. He was carrying bags and bags of gifts, looking full of sincerity. Zhou Hao trailed behind him, looking thoroughly unwilling, his eyes darting around as if inspecting his own territory. My father, Chen Jianjun, stood up and positioned himself in front of my mother, his expression wary. Our family doesn't welcome you. Now, in-laws, don't say that. Zhou Zhengwu pushed his way in shamelessly. We did raise Chen Nuo for 25 years. After all, no merit, but we put in the effort. I walked over and blocked his path. State your business or leave. Zhou Zhengwu looked at me, let out a sigh, and switched to the emotional appeal. Nuo, I know you've got resentment in your heart. That day was my fault, I had too much to drink and said some nonsense. Don't take it to heart. As he spoke, he reached for my hand. I sidestepped the gesture without making a show of it. Dad's apologizing to you, all right. Come home with Dad. Zhou's eatery can't survive without you. If this had been the old days, that act might have softened me, but now it only made me sick. Go home? I looked at him. Go back to which home? My surname is Chen. My home is here. Zhou Zhengwu's face immediately fell. Zhou Hao, who had been silent the whole time, finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Chen Nuo, don't be so ungrateful. My dad came all this way in person to ask you back, and you're still acting high and mighty. You think you're some big shot now? He pointed at my parents, his face full of contempt. You actually want to stay in this dump and live out your days with these two country bumpkins? You had the chance to be the young master of the Zhou family, but instead you chose to be a cook. Are you out of your mind? Slap. A crisp sound echoed through the living room. I'd struck him. That slap carried every ounce of strength I had. Zhou Hao's face swelled instantly, a clear handprint rising on his cheek. He was stunned, clutching his face, staring at me in disbelief. You dared to hit me. I hit you to teach you what respect means. I stared into his eyes, each word ice cold. You can insult me all you want, but you will never insult my parents. Joe How lunged at me like a madman. I sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and twisted it backward. Ah! He let out a scream and dropped to his knees in pain. I'd grown up in the kitchen, lifting and carrying heavy loads every day. My strength far exceeded his, a body already hollowed out by wine and women. Joe How, Zhou Zhengwu, and Zhang Lan, she'd come along, two rushed over in panic. Nua, let go of my son. Zhang Lan came at me like a fishwife, claws out. My parents quickly stepped in to hold her back. The scene dissolved into chaos. Enough! I barked. Everyone froze. I released Zhou Hao, and he scrambled back behind Zhou Zhengwu, staring at me with a mixture of terror and venom. I looked at Zhou Zhengwu and spoke slowly. One word at a time, leave. From this moment on, don't ever show your faces in front of us again. Otherwise, next time, it won't be just a slap. My eyes must have been terrifying. Zhou Zhengwu grabbed the still cursing Zhou Hao and fled, scrambling out the door. Watching their pathetic retreating backs, I felt nothing. I knew then the die was cast. The feud was well and truly set. They would never let this go so easily. I was right. The Zhou family's retaliation came fast and fierce. The very next day, a group of uninvited guests showed up at the door of my Chen's kitchen. Several people in uniforms, claiming to be inspectors from the health department and the fire safety bureau, said they'd received a tip-off and needed to conduct an impromptu inspection of my restaurant. They went through everything with a fine-tooth comb, digging through every corner of the kitchen, checking the expiration dates on every ingredient. Measuring the width of the fire exit, not a single detail escaped their scrutiny. I knew exactly who was behind this. Fifth sister Zhou Xian worked in a related department. With her connections, arranging for someone to pay special attention to my little shop was as easy as snapping her fingers. Too bad for them, they were about to be disappointed. My restaurant might be small, but everything was held to the highest standard. The kitchen was spotless, cleaned religiously every day. All ingredients were guaranteed fresh, delivered the same morning. The fire safety equipment was fully up to code. The inspectors worked for an entire morning and found absolutely nothing wrong. In the end, they could only slink away looking thoroughly deflated. The students lined up outside had witnessed the whole thing. Whoa, someone actually filed a malicious complaint against this place. Has to be, I walked past the kitchen last time and it was cleaner than my own kitchen at home. Definitely someone jealous of how well Chen's is doing. Competitors playing dirty. People like that are disgusting. If anything, this incident only made the students trust me more and sympathize with me. Instead of scaring customers away, business at Chen's kitchen actually went up. When that plan failed, they cooked up another one a few days later. A flood of smear posts about Chen's kitchen suddenly appeared online. They claimed my ingredients were scavenged from garbage dumps, that my kitchen was infested with rats and cockroaches, that I used gutter oil. They even attached a few images that looked shocking at first glance, but anyone with half a brain could tell they were photoshopped. The posts were obviously the work of paid trolls. Every account that posted them had been registered just days before, but they spammed them relentlessly. In no time, rumors were spreading like wildfire. The line outside my restaurant visibly shrank. Customers who didn't know the truth started pointing fingers and whispering. My parents were so furious they couldn't eat. This is slander, defamation. We should call the police. Dad, Mom, don't get angry. Getting upset over people like this isn't worth it. I reassured them. The truth will always come out. I didn't rush online to trade insults with the trolls, that would only make things worse. Instead, I posted a notice right on the front door of my restaurant in response to the online rumors. This establishment will now open its kitchen to the public. Visitors are welcome to tour and supervise at any time. If any hygiene issue is discovered, we will compensate you 10 times over and reward the reporter with 10,000 yuan. At the same time, I installed a high-definition camera in the kitchen and started a 24-hour live stream. From washing and chopping vegetables to stir-frying and plating, every step was on full display. This move cut the problem off at the root. The rumors collapsed under their own weight. Many customers who had been sitting on the fence saw how transparent I was and actually felt more confident than before. My kitchen livestream quickly attracted a flood of viewers, not to watch the drama, but purely because they were captivated by my cooking. Wow, that knife work, the potato shreds are as thin as hair. Watching the boss flip the wok is pure art, so cool. So that's how the signature braised pork is made. Learn something new. Though it looks easy, I'd burn the kitchen in practice. Because of that smear campaign, my little restaurant unexpectedly blew up online. People came from far and wide, drawn by the buzz. Some tourists from other cities even took high-speed rail trips just to check in at my place. Chen's kitchen was now thoroughly famous. The Zhou family's days, on the other hand, were getting harder and harder. Zhou's restaurant had hit rock bottom. Several branches had been forced to close due to prolonged losses. Suppliers were showing up demanding payment, and the banks were starting to pressure them on their loans. The Zhou family was sliding step by step toward bankruptcy. And the more desperate they became, the dirtier their tactics got. That night, I closed the shop and was walking home when I passed through a quiet alley. A group of masked men suddenly rushed out from the shadows. They all carried clubs, and without a word, they swung at my head. My heart sank. Zhou Hao, it had to be him. I couldn't think of anyone else who would resort to such underhanded tactics. Years of working in a kitchen had made me quicker and stronger than the average person. I barely dodged the first blow aimed at my skull, then bolted toward the mouth of the alley, but there were too many of them. They surrounded me in seconds. Kid, you pissed off the wrong people. Today we're going to teach you a lesson you won't forget, the leader snarled. I looked at the clubs in their hands and my heart dropped to the bottom of my stomach. Against this many, I didn't stand a chance. I was in serious trouble. Just as a club was about to slam into my back, a sharp cry cut through the air. Stop! A red Porsche convertible came screeching into view, executing a perfect drift that blocked the entrance to the alley. The door flew open and big sister Zhou Yun charged out. She was wearing high heels. But she was gripping a baseball bat in her hand, looking equal parts gorgeous and fierce. Who the hell are you people? You dare start a fight here? Want me to make sure you rot in prison, she shouted, her eyes sharp as blades. The thugs looked at her, then at the luxury car behind her. Clearly, they were rattled. Mind your own business. I am the business. Zhou Yun stood her ground, raising the bat and pointing it at them. He's my brother. Touch him, and I dare you to see what happens. The thugs exchanged uneasy glances. They were hired hands, not looking to escalate things into something bigger. The leader spat on the ground and glared at me with pure venom. Kid, consider yourself lucky. With that, he led his men away, cursing under their breath as they disappeared. The alley fell silent, leaving only me and Zhou Yun. I looked at her, a storm of emotions churning inside me. She was breathing hard, sweat beading on her forehead, the hand gripping the bat still trembling slightly. Clearly, she'd been bluffing her way through that, too. Are you okay? She asked, her eyes searching my face. There was concern there, and lingering fear, and something else I couldn't quite read. What are you doing here? I asked. She paused. I was just passing by. It was such a flimsy excuse it was almost laughable. This road wasn't anywhere near the direction of her home. Thank you, I said, meaning every word. Whatever else she was, tonight she'd saved me. No need. She turned her face away, her tone slipping back into that familiar frost. I just don't want the Zhou family dragged into a murder investigation. I said nothing. The silence hung awkwardly between us. It was Zhou Hao, wasn't it? She asked suddenly. I nodded. That useless, good-for-nothing piece of trash. She muttered the curse under her breath, her face a mask of disgust and exhaustion. She pulled a business card from her purse and held it out to me. If something like this ever happens again, call this number. Tell them I sent you. I took it. The name on the card read Jian Long, with a title beneath it, owner of some security company. You should go. I'm fine, I said. Let me drive you. No need. I tucked the card away and turned to leave. Chan Nua. Her voice stopped me from behind. I paused mid-step but didn't look back. The Zhou family, it's really over. Her voice sounded hollow, drained of all strength. Dad's company, they're announcing bankruptcy liquidation next week. I listened quietly, saying nothing. I know you hate us. A bitter laugh escaped her. We deserved it. We treated you like a pawn, like a tool. We forgot you were a person with flesh and blood. Does any of that matter now? No, she murmured, almost to herself. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, and thank you. Thank you for everything you gave to this family. With that, she turned and climbed into her car. The red sports car roared to life and vanished into the night. I stood there for a long time without moving. My heart was a tangled mess of emotions. Sorry, thank you. If those words had come just a little sooner, maybe everything would have been different, but now it was too late. News of the Zhou family's bankruptcy spread fast. Zhou's Kitchen, the once glorious restaurant brand, crumbled overnight. Every single location was slapped with seizure notices. The banks repossessed the houses and the cars to cover the debts. Zhou Zhengwu couldn't take the blow. He suffered a sudden cerebral hemorrhage and was rushed to the hospital. They managed to save his life, but he was left half paralyzed, unable to speak clearly. Zhan Lan spent her days in tears, keeping vigil at his bedside. Zhou Hao, the one truly responsible, had siphoned off the last of the company's funds before the collapse and vanished without a trace. Word had it he was drowning in gambling debts, with loan sharks and underworld enforcers hunting him down. The 7 daughters who had once walked on air, born with silver spoons in their mouths, were suddenly plunged from the clouds into the mud. Their glamorous lives came to a screeching halt. The eldest, Zhou Yun, saw her law firm dragged down by the family scandal. Her reputation took a hit, clients fled in droves, and the practice was teetering on the edge of collapse. The second sister, Zhou Ya, had her research project rejected in the final round. Now she was being pushed aside at the university. 2. The third sister, Zhou Yu, failed to secure her promotion to chief physician. Then, weighed down by family turmoil, she slipped during a surgery, a medical error that resulted in a malpractice investigation and suspension. The fourth sister, Zhou Shuang, had her livestream flooded with "Zhou family bankrupt" comments. Her haters were having a field day. Overwhelmed by the harassment, she'd stopped broadcasting entirely. The fifth sister, Zhou Xian, had her scheme to suppress competitors through her position exposed. She was given a major demerit at work, and her future looked bleak. The sixth sister, Zhou Cheng, had her design project terminated by the client. Her studio's cash flow dried up, and it too was on the verge of closing. The youngest, Zhou Shi, dropped out of school outright. The family could no longer afford her exorbitant tuition and piano maintenance fees. Without me as their walking ATM, crushed by the family's collapse, they were all snapped back to reality. It turned out their so-called success had been built on the platform I'd constructed for them. The moment that platform fell, they were nothing. I heard all of this through various channels. I didn't verify any of it. I didn't care to. My life, meanwhile, kept moving forward. Chen's Kitchen was thriving. I'd already leased the shop next door, planning to expand. I'd registered my own catering company, aiming to turn Chen's into a brand new name. My parents were all smiles these days. They helped out at the restaurant, chatted with customers, and took evening walks in the park before joining the square dance crowd. Their health had never been better. I thought the story between me and the Zhou family had finally reached its end until that day when all 7 of them showed up at my door. It was a drizzly evening. I was just about to close up when they appeared, standing in the rain without umbrellas, soaked to the bone like drowned rats. No designer clothes, no perfect makeup, they looked ragged and haggard, a world apart from the 7 proud princesses I remembered. The diners and staff inside all turned to stare. I frowned and stepped out. Something I can help you with? I stood under the awning, looking at them. My tone distant. New awe. It was Zhou Shi, the youngest, who spoke first. She'd lost a lot of weight. Her face was pale, and those once sparkling eyes were now filled with pleading and desperation. She stepped forward, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. Can we talk inside? She asked softly, her voice fragile against the patter of rain. I paused for a moment, then nodded. Come in, all of you. I led them up to the private room on the 2nd floor. My parents glanced at them, froze for a beat, then quietly excused themselves, thoughtfully closing the door behind them. The room fell into a dead silence. The only sounds were the water dripping from their clothes and the muffled rhythm of their breathing. Finally, it was Zhou Yun, the eldest, who broke the silence. She looked even more exhausted than the last time I'd seen her. Chen Nua, she said, meeting my eyes. Gone was the old arrogance, only a deep, hollow helplessness remained. We're here to beg you. Beg me? I let out a cold laugh. For what? That's not how you were talking when you threw me out of the house. We were wrong. Zhou, the second sister, picked up the thread, her voice hoarse. All of us were wrong, terribly wrong. We shouldn't have treated you the way we did. You realize that now? Too late. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, watching them with icy detachment. It's not too late, Nuwa. As long as you're willing, everything can still be salvaged. Joe, you, the third sister, said urgently. Joe's kitchen may have fallen, but the brand still has weight, and the old chefs still remember you fondly. If you just step forward, we could rebuild. We could rise again. I laughed as if I had just heard the most absurd joke in the world. What gives you the right? What gives you the right when every single one of you has run your own life into the ground? My words struck like a blade, sinking deep into their hearts. Their faces went pale in an instant. Nua, I know we were never good to you. We were selfish. We were cold. We took you for granted. Fourth sister Zhou Shuang spoke through her tears. But we lived under the same roof for 25 years. Can you truly say there's not a shred of old feeling left? Old feeling? I shot back. When Zhou Hao pointed his finger at me and called me a bastard, and all of you stood there in silence, where was your old feeling then? When Zhou Zhengwu tried to buy me off with 200,000, and none of you lifted a finger, where was your old feeling then? When Zhou Hao had people corner me in an alley and beat me within an inch of my life, when you almost never saw me again, where was your old feeling then? With every question I asked, their heads sank lower. By the end, every single one of them was sobbing uncontrollably. Awe. Seventh sister Zhou, she suddenly dropped to her knees with a heavy thud right in front of me. She clung to my leg with everything she had, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Brother, I'm begging you, please help us. Dad is lying in the hospital, and every single day costs money. Big sister's company is about to collapse. Sixth sister's studio can't even pay wages anymore. I don't want to drop out of school. I want to keep playing piano. Brother, without you, we really can't survive. She wailed like a lost child, her cries tearing through the room. The other six sisters crowded around me as well, eyes swollen and red, faces streaked with tears, all looking up at me with desperate pleading. Nua, just take pity on us. Nua, if you'll only help us, we'll listen to you from now on, we'll be your servants, we'll do anything. Nua, your sisters are begging you. They pressed in around me, their sobs and pleas blending into one chaotic chorus. I looked at their tear-streaked faces. There was a time, long ago, when they had surrounded me just like this, but back then, it was to wheedle and demand. Now, it was to beg and repent. My heart twisted as if something had seized it hard. To say I felt nothing would be a lie. After all, it was 25 years of shared history, even if that bond had been tainted with too many impurities. The kindness they had shown me in those early years, that had been real. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. When I opened them again, my gaze had cleared. What exactly do you want me to do? At my words, their crying stopped dead. Disbelieving joy spread across their faces. Nua, you're agreeing? Big sister Zhou Yun tested the waters. I didn't say that. I corrected. I only asked what you want me to do. Bring the Zhou family kitchen name back to life. Zhou Yun said immediately, a fire rekindling in her eyes. If you'll just come back as head chef, with your skills and your connections, we can win back our old customers and reopen. And then? I looked at her. After we reopen, is it going to be like before, me slaving away in the kitchen while you all sit back and enjoy the fruits, playing at being young mistresses? Zhou Yun's face stiffened. Of course not. Second sister Zhou Ye jumped in quickly. We will help, too. We can run the business together. What do you know how to do? I asked without mercy. Can you keep the books? Can you manage people? Can you handle purchasing? Can you even carry a plate? They fell silent again. Struck dumb, right? These women, these proud daughters of privilege outside their own narrow fields of expertise, they knew absolutely nothing about the restaurant business. If they tried to help, they'd only make things worse. Nua, let me finish. I cut them off. I stood up and walked to the window, gazing out at the drizzling rain. If you want my help, fine. But I have 3 conditions. Name them, even 300, we'll agree. They said in unison. First, from this day forward, I make the decisions in this family. Every company decision goes through me. You get advisory rights but no veto power. They exchanged glances, then nodded firmly. Agreed. Right now, they had nothing, they'd hand over every last share of stock if I asked. Second, every one of you comes to work at the restaurant. What? This condition clearly caught them off guard. Big sister, you're a lawyer, aren't you? Company legal affairs are yours from now on. Second sister, you're a professor with strong writing skills, you handle the marketing copy. Third sister, you studied medicine and have a careful eye, you're in charge of food safety and quality control. Fourth sister, you're an influencer, you handle online operations and live stream sales. Fifth sister, you have connections everywhere, you manage public relations and business development. Sixth sister, you're a designer, you take care of the new location's interior design. Seventh sister, I looked at Joshi. You're still young. Go back to school and study hard. When the restaurant gets busy, you can work the front desk and greet customers. It'll be good practice for you. I assigned each of them a position that was within their reach yet far from easy. I don't expect you to be great at it overnight, but you will learn. You start from the ground up, waiting tables, washing dishes, chopping vegetables, you do it all. Anyone who dares to slack off or put on airs can get the hell out. They were stunned. These women, who had never once dirtied their hands with housework, were being told to wash dishes and carry plates. It sounded worse than death to them. What? Not interested? I raised an eyebrow. Struggle and hesitation were written all over their faces. Nua, this sixth sister, Jo Ching, hesitated. What about my studio? Your studio is already dead. I said, crushing her illusion without mercy. Right now, you're unemployed. Jo Ching's face went white. I don't have time to bargain with you. I delivered my ultimatum. Take it or walk out that door right now. I'll count to 3. 1. The private room grew heavy with suffocating tension. They bit their lips hard, their eyes darting with frantic indecision. 2. Big sister Zhou Yun drew a deep breath, as if steeling herself for something. Fine. I agree. She was the first to commit. With her taking the lead, the others nodded one after another. I agree, too. And me. Their voices still carried a hint of reluctance, but in the end, they had conceded. Good. I nodded. Now, the third condition. I walked up to them, my gaze sweeping across every single face. From the moment you agreed, you are no longer the high and mighty young misses of the Zhou family. You are my employees, Chen Nua's staff. I will pay you a salary every month, but I will never again, like before, unconditionally cater to your every demand. You want designer bags? You want luxury cars? You want to live like you're on top of the world? Fine, earn it with your own labor. Whoever performs well, whoever contributes the most to the company, gets the biggest bonuses and dividends. In short, from this day forward, the capable rise, the incompetent fall. If you think you can coast by on my dime, not a chance. My words were final, unyielding, leaving no room for argument. This wasn't just about laying down the law, it was about shattering the dependency and laziness they'd cultivated for over 20 years. I wanted them to understand one truth: no one in this world is anyone's personal ATM. If you want something, you have to pay for it with effort. After laying out those 3 conditions, I looked at them. Their faces showed shock, resentment, hurt, but above all, a bewilderment they'd never known before. Maybe they'd never once imagined the day would come when they'd have to earn their own money, fend for themselves. If you all agree, report to my restaurant tomorrow morning at 8. Miss that window, and the offer's gone. With that, I pulled open the door and walked out, leaving the 7 of them behind in the private room, exchanging glances. I knew those 3 conditions were harsh for them, humiliating, even. Whether they'd show up, I had no idea. But this was the last chance I could give them: rise from the ashes or sink deeper into the mud. The choice was theirs. The next morning, at 7:50, I unlocked the restaurant door, ready to start the day's grind, and at the entrance stood 7 familiar figures. They all came, no makeup, wearing the plainest clothes. Though their faces still carried a hint of awkwardness and unease. Their eyes held something I'd never seen in them before: resolve. I didn't say much, just nodded. Come in. A new day had begun for 7 young women who'd spent their lives being waited on hand and foot. Working at a restaurant was nothing short of a nightmare. Day 1, I made sure they tasted what the hardships of life really meant. Big sister, this contract has problems, take it back and redo it. Second sister, what is this copy you wrote? Soft and lifeless, zero appeal. Rewrite it. Third sister, the kitchen floor isn't clean, go mop it again. Fourth sister, stop flaunting yourself over there, customers are here. Get out front and greet them. My demands were strict to the point of being ruthless. One small slip, and they'd get a scathing critique without mercy. They'd never endured this kind of treatment in their entire lives. By the end of the first day, more than a few had secretly wiped away tears. The youngest, Joshi, came running to me crying, Brother, I don't want to do this anymore, carrying plates is so exhausting, and customers yell at me, I'm tired. I looked at her. Then tell me, when I used to go to the market at 4 in the morning to stock up, hauling over 100 pounds of pork by myself, do you think I was tired? Joe, she froze. You study piano, one lesson costs a few thousand. To scrape together your tuition, I spent summers stir-frying. In a kitchen that hit 40 degrees by the end of the day, I could wring the sweat out of my clothes. Do you think that was tiring? Joe, she's tears flowed even harder, but this time not from grievance, from guilt. Brother, I was wrong. Get back to work. I offered no comfort. If you can't even handle this much hardship, then your piano dream ends right here. Joe, she bit her lip, nodded firmly, and turned back to her post. From that day on, she never complained again. People are forged by pressure. When they truly understood how hard it was to earn money, when they saw with their own eyes how much blood and sweat I'd poured into this restaurant, that's when they really started to reflect and change. Big sister Zhou Yun was no longer the elite lawyer who only knew how to talk down from on high. She threw herself into learning the food industry's legal regulations, steering the company away from one legal pitfall after another. Second sister Zhouya set aside her professor's pride. She went to the university district to do field research, learning what today's young people actually liked, and the copy she wrote became more and more grounded. Third sister Zhouyu applied her physician's rigor to quality control, every dish's ingredient sourcing and preparation process. She inspected it all with a fine-tooth comb, never letting a single detail slip. Every one of them was working hard in their own role, shining in their own way. The process was grueling, but they also gained a sense of accomplishment they'd never felt before. When they received their first month's salary, just a few thousand yuan, the smiles on their faces were brighter than when they'd gotten designer bags worth hundreds of thousands. Money earned by your own hands carries a meaning that's entirely different. With all of us working together, the new Chen's restaurant quickly found its footing. I took the old Zhou sign that had been bought back at a rock-bottom price after the Zhou family's bankruptcy and combined it with my Chen's kitchen model to open a brand new flagship store. On opening day, business was explosive. The old regulars, after tasting that long-missed familiar flavor, were moved to tears. This is it, this is the taste. Chef Chen Nua is finally back. Watching the bustling, noisy scene in the restaurant, all 7 sisters couldn't hold back their tears this time. They were tears of joy. We had our share of arguments and conflicts along the way, but in the end, we fought side by side like a real family and made it through the storm. One day, I went to visit Zhou Zhengwu, who was still rehabbing at the hospital. He could walk now, though his speech was still a little slurred. Zhang Lan was by his side. When she saw me, her expression was complicated. Nua. Zhou Zhengwu struggled to his feet from the wheelchair and, facing me, he bowed deeply. So, sorry, he said, his voice thick and unclear, tears streaming down his aged face. I steadied him, my heart utterly calm. It's all in the past. I haven't forgiven, and I haven't hated. It's simply over now. Walking out of the hospital, the sunlight was just right. I spotted my eldest sister, Zhou Yun, standing by her car parked at the curb, one hand pressed to her ear as she talked on the phone. Her face carrying that confident, polished smile of a woman who had it all together. Not far away, my fourth sister, Zhou Xuan, was holding up a selfie stick, live streaming to her followers, cheerfully introducing them to the opening specials at our new store. Further out, I thought I caught a glimpse of my sixth sister, Zhou Cheng, holding blueprints and gesturing animatedly at the foreman of the construction crew. Every single one of them had found their place in this world, living out their own worth. Maybe this was what a family was truly supposed to look like, not endless demands and clinging dependency, but lifting each other up, growing together, side by side. I smiled to myself, turned, and headed toward my restaurant. Waiting for me there were my parents, my career, and my new family. 1 year later, the anniversary celebration of the Chenji Restaurant Group was held at the most luxurious 5-star hotel in the city. As the chairman of the group, I stood on the stage, looking out at the guests and employees filling the seats below, and a flood of emotions washed over me. 1 year ago, I was a fake young master, kicked out of the house with nothing to my name. 1 year later, I had built a restaurant empire with my own 2 hands. The Chenji brand had spread across the entire country, becoming the undisputed leader in Chinese fast food. My net worth had long since surpassed what the Zhou family had once been. In the front row, dead center, sat my parents, dressed in the custom-tailored formal wear I'd had made for them. The pride and joy on their faces couldn't be hidden. Beside them sat 7 radiant women. Eldest sister Zhou Yun was now the group's chief legal officer, the legendary Iron Lady of the legal world. She had just won a cross-border lawsuit that saved the company tens of millions in losses. Second sister Zhou, the group's brand director, had masterminded the national-style food festival campaign that went viral across the internet, elevating the Chenji brand image to an entirely new level. Third sister Zhou, the quality control director, had built the From Farm to Table full traceability system that had become the industry benchmark. Fourth sister Zhou Shuang, the online operations director, had created a live streaming matrix that brought in hundreds of millions in sales every year. And she'd earned herself the title of live streaming queen. Fifth sister Zhou Xian, the PR director, had leveraged her exceptional social skills to secure one heavyweight partnership after another for the company. Sixth sister Zhou Qing, the design director, had designed the new Chinese-style Chenji stores that had won international design awards and become must-visit landmarks for countless people. And seventh sister Zhou Shi, she had scored first in her class and gotten into the world's top music conservatory. Today, she'd specially taken leave to fly back for the celebration. She was no longer that timid little girl standing there, she radiated confidence and grace. Every one of them had been completely transformed, shining in their own brilliant way. They were no longer anyone's appendages, they were strong, capable women who could stand entirely on their own. Halfway through the celebration, all seven sisters walked up onto the stage together. In their hands, they carried a single enormous birthday cake. New awe. Eldest sister Zhou Yun spoke on behalf of all of them, her eyes glistening. Today isn't just the company's birthday, it's yours, too. We want to say thank you. Thank you for showing us what responsibility really means. Thank you for teaching us how to love. Thank you for giving us a real home. Together, they bowed deeply to me. Nua, without you, we truly wouldn't have made it. This time, when they said those words, their faces held no pleading or dependence, only heartfelt gratitude and genuine respect. I walked forward and stood among them. I looked at them, then at all the people below who had supported me, and I smiled. No, it's I who should thank you. You're the ones who made me understand that family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by love, by responsibility, by protecting each other and growing together. I picked up the knife and, amid the blessings of everyone present, cut the first slice of cake. The lights blazed, the applause thundered. I knew then our story was only just beginning. As for that man, Zhou Hao, I heard later that he'd been caught cheating at gambling and had his legs broken. Then, while fleeing from debt collectors, he slipped and fell into a river. He never came back up. As for Zhou Zhengmu and Zhan Lan, after their son died, they finally saw things clearly. They sold off the last of their property, moved to a quiet little town, and lived out their remaining years depending on each other. Every now and then, they'd send me some local specialty goods. I'd accept them, then have my secretary send back some money and supplements. Between us, there was no more hatred, only a complicated, hard-to-name connection. Maybe this was the best possible ending. Everyone had paid the price for their choices, and everyone had found their redemption. And me? I had family. I had a career. And most of all, I had myself. That was more than enough. The end.